It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Trinity's head women's squash coach, Coach Wendy Bartlett. How are you doing today?
Hey there, I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's squash?
Well, I had been, when I first graduated from college, I had been working at a club in Pittsburgh where I had grown up, Fox Chapel Golf Club, and I was the tennis pro there and also the paddle pro there. And I was also getting into squash at that point in my life and loved it. So I started teaching squash on the side at another facility. And then my husband and I actually met playing squash, and we moved to West Hartford, Connecticut, which of course, you know, we're in West Hartford, we're about 15 minutes from Trinity. And things led on to things, and we started playing at Trinity, and I met the women's squash and tennis coach. And I thought, God, Trinity's just such a terrific school, and wouldn't it be great to be coach here? And fortunately for me, she got the head tennis position at Yale at the end of August, and I became the women's tennis and squash coach.
What was that experience like, learning about squash and getting to coach for the Fox Chapel?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What was that experience like, learning about squash and playing squash to then help become the director?
Oh, well, that was more tennis and paddle related, and I was doing squash on the side. So, you know, I love tennis. I still love tennis, and I love coaching and playing all the racket sports. So it's always been a very it's been a very worthwhile and job for me in whatever I'm coaching, and it's never been boring. I've never felt like I've had a job when I've been coaching.
Coming to Trinity first, what was that experience like, getting that experience as the tennis coach?
The tennis and well, until 2015, I was tennis and squash. So back then, all coaches did 2 or 3 sports. In fact, I was doing 3 sports: women's tennis in the fall, squash in the winter, and then men's JV tennis in the spring. And then as all these sports become more specialized, in 2015, Trinity made all the head coaches go down to one sport. And so I chose squash, and then I became the full-time head women's squash coach here.
What was that transition like for you, going from being the head women's tennis coach and squash coach to being the full-time squash coach?
Well, it was getting, tennis had grown to such a point. It was in the fall, in the spring, and it was very tough, like with all these sports, to be doing 2 of them, with the recruiting, the national championships, the demands, the pressure on all of the coaches with these athletes to be coaching them to be the best they could be. So it was really, actually at that point, really very nice to be able to just concentrate on one sport.
What was that feeling like, getting announced to become the head squash coach?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I loved it. And Trinity, the wonderful thing about Trinity is when I got here, the team was ranked number 2 in the country. And so there was, you know, I just really wanted to keep it going, to keep us right in that area where we're always fighting for the national championships. And so throughout my 40 years here as squash coach, we've done that. And we're a small school, but we continually beat the Ivy Leagues, and we're always trying to be national champions.
For my listeners that don't know, how do you play the sport of squash?
How do you play the sport? Well, you can see my background. It's a room. It's like a room, and you're enclosed and on this court, we have one of the few glass paneled courts in the country. We have two of these. You have walls on either side of you, a front wall, and then you have the back of the where the door is, and that's glass also. So the whole point is to really move your opponent all over the place. You've got four corners you can hit it and get them back behind you so you can move forward and take the tee and start attacking up front.
Of course, what is that experience like getting to see your athletes go after these players and attacking them in playing squash?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
What is that experience like as a head coach, getting to see your players on game day going after your opponents and attacking them while playing
Oh,
squash?
it's so exciting. The practices, like right now, we're doing double sessions until classes start. So they're really working hard. They come up here every morning, every afternoon, and we're doing fitness. We're getting on court. We're doing a lot of strength and conditioning, a lot of recovery work. So, we're putting in a lot of hours. And then to see it all come forth in a match is just one of the most rewarding feelings.
What does a typical game day match look like for you as a coach versus for your players?
For me, as opposed to my players?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like if we're playing at home, I get up here earlier than they do, and I want to make sure that the facility's all set up. So we have to have everything clean, the glass clean, and there's two chairs for the ref and the marker out front of each court, and make sure that the balls are out and everything is in the clipboards and the scoreboards and everything else. So there's a lot of prep involved before each match.
What are some of the sports that are similar to the sport of squash?
Tennis would be the closest in terms of it's an individual sport. You're trying to be one person. It's not a team versus team in terms of everybody out on like a basketball court or field hockey or soccer field. It's one-on-one.
Who are some of the teams that you compete against?
Let's see, we're among the top 8 teams. And so it's right now the rankings are Harvard, Trinity, Princeton, Penn, UVA, Drexel's up there, and Stanford.
What is that like getting to go compete against those Ivy League schools like Yale, Princeton, and Harvard?
It's really exciting. I mean, obviously they're much bigger schools, and their facilities are large, and you're dealing just with a whole different type of student body. Trinity is a smaller school, so they get a lot more individual attention. And squash is a big sport here, whereas at the other larger schools, it's one of many, but they're extremely competitive.
What is that atmosphere like when going away to play teams like Princeton?
It's very exciting. I mean, you walk into Jadwin Gym and you see, the basketball team going, and, tons of people there cheering them on. And they have, the Ivies have a lot of huge, big fans, Princeton fans, Harvard fans, and Yale fans. So there's a lot of energy.
What are some of the things that you've been able to accomplish this far as the squash coach?
I think the biggest thing was in 1998, we were, let's say, permitted by the admissions office and by the school to recruit internationally. So it's been very exciting to recruit internationally and go to countries all over the world and be seen and to represent Trinity. And when these players come to Trinity and really help them make the adjustment to life in the United States and at Trinity.
As a head coach, what is that like having those international players, as you said, get to play squash at Trinity?
Oh, it's an amazing experience. They're coming to the United States, but they have to get used to a new country, a new culture, a new academic system, and a new way of training for squash. They've been used to being individual players playing for their country, and it's not nearly as intense as day in and day out practice.
Of course, what does that recruitment process look like for those prospective squash athletes out there looking to play squash?
Well, the first thing is it's changed because now the other schools have opened up their missions to recruit international students, but we were the first to do it, to do it in a major way. And so, it's really very interesting to tell them all the benefits of coming to Trinity because of its smaller size and the individual attention that they'll be getting.
As a head coach, what are some of the things that you look at in those prospective squash athletes out there?
They're great players. They've been playing squash, since almost the day they were born. And Americans didn't start playing the international game until 1994. So they're a little bit, they had been behind the 8-ball in terms of playing on the wider court. The Americans had grown up on the hardball court with a hard ball.
For those prospective student athletes, what does that official visit look like at Trinity and seeing the squash court?
Well, we really roll out the red carpet. They stay with a player that is familiar with their country, might even be from their own country. And they come up and they watch practices. They can play with the players. I can't watch, coaches can't watch. But they can get a feel for the team and the bonding and the team spirit our team has and our team culture. And they get to go to some classes and see the small size of the classes, go to Mather for meals, be introduced to the male players. And, it's a really very all around kind of approach to enabling them to see that everything Trinity can offer.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the squash program?
Well, I've really been focused a lot on the team culture because these players from abroad haven't been playing on a team. They might play for their country and practice 2 times a year and then play 2 or 3 times a year as a team. But, in the United States, we're a very team country in terms of our athletics. Girls and boys at the age of 8 are going out and playing t-ball, soccer, lacrosse, hockey, all of those sports. But these players haven't had that opportunity to do that. So, yes, squash is an individual sport, but it's also very much a team sport. I mean, you have to win 5 out of 9 matches in order to win. So every number 1 is just as important as number 9. So when they put in that Trinity squash shirt, they're playing for Trinity. They're not playing for themselves or their country.
Of course, for a typical game day, is it all day or are there certain times for the matches?
Oh yeah, we have we're playing Stanford on Saturday at 1. And it will probably last. We're going to use a 5-court rotation. So evens will go on, the even numbers, and then the odd numbers will go on. So that if you use the 5-court rotation, the match will usually take about maybe 2 hours. And then sometimes we use a 3-court rotation where 3 players are on 1 court playing around each. And that could take up to 3 hours.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing your freshmen put on that Trinity squash uniform for the first time?
Oh, it's thrilling. And then the job is to keep them wearing all the Trinity squash gear all the time. And so that they can go around campus. So everybody knows that they're Trinity squash players.
What is that like getting to see your seniors putting on that gear for the last time?
It's sad, and they're sad. They really, they get a lot of being out on the team and the friendships that they form, and they have lifelong relationships, lifelong friends from all over the world, all the rest of their lives.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those squash players after they graduate make the national team and represent Team USA or a different country?
Oh, it's absolutely thrilling. Because, and the thing I love about tennis and squash is they're lifetime sports. So it doesn't end when they graduate. They keep playing, they can be on national teams, or they can just play national tournaments, or they can just play at their local club and have a thrilling life.
What are some of your future plans for the squash program moving forward?
Well, Trinity's going to build a new recreation and wellness center, and that will be, in there will be 7 brand new courts. So that will give us more courts. Right now we have 10, so we'll have 7 more. And that will be really great because then we can have camps up here and tournaments and so forth and so on.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of squash?
Except just trust the process. Don't try to fight it.
What advice would you give those seniors out there that are looking to make a national team and represent squash on the national level?
Well, it's going to probably be a lot more pressure and a lot more intense. And they are, but I think they would be very, very prepared for that.
What advice would you give players out there that are looking to get into coaching after their squash career?
Just, you can keep playing. There are so many local tournaments, local clubs, and you know, it's such a great look. I met my husband playing squash. You just form, you know, you just meet incredible people that become your friends and your social group.
What
And it's
advice What advice would you give those head coaches out there looking to build their own program for squash and build their own legacy in squash?
it's very, very important to make your mark and create a team culture that is disciplined and works hard and wants to win and is proud of their school and proud of their team.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the Trinity Squash Program app?
If you just go to Trinity College, it's in Hartford, Connecticut, and you will, if you go into athletics, go on to the women's squash team, that tab, and there we are.
Thank you again, Coach Wendy Bartlett, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the head women's squash coach at Trinity College.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Wendy Bartlett, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.